When writing an article in an academic journal or giving a presentation in an academic environment, the ability to classify, compare and contrast is essential. Classification is the process of arranging items into categories based on shared characteristics. People, objects, ideas, almost anything can be classified. Classification is a way to organize information in order to make things clear and to avoid confusion. It forms the basis of the comparison technique in academic English. Many things can be classified in more than one way. The most important thing is that they are arranged into a logical order in logical categories that can be used for an intended purpose. To do this, you should determine a classifying principle so that the categories are logical. A classification paragraph often includes examples and other supporting details. The aim is to communicate categories for the items so that comparisons and contrasts can then be made. Comparing and contrasting is a process of analysis which helps to explain things in greater depth. This skill is commonly required at university, where lecturers frequently test students' understanding by asking them to compare and contrast two theories, methods, historical periods, or even characters in a novel. To compare is to emphasize the similarities between things, ideas, concepts, or points of view, while to contrast is to compare and emphasize the differences. For example, Native Americans of the Southwest lived in villages and planted their corn and squash in orderly rows. However, Native Americans around the Great Lakes forest hunted deer and small fur-bearing animals. This is a contrast. Though different in detail, these ideas are similar in that they both derive from the clock's observable characteristics and behavior. This is a comparison. Here are some useful transitions to use in a comparison. In the same way, likewise, similarly. And here are some useful transitions to contrast. However, in contrast, yet, on the contrary. As you compare and contrast, aim to go beyond mere description or summary. Try to emphasize the similarities or differences between things in order to make connections and to generate an interesting analysis. The comparison or contrast should make a point or serve a purpose. It could help to describe or explain something, lead to a fresh insight or a new way of viewing something, highlight a discrepancy in data or information, or evaluate points across multiple texts. Clear criteria are required for comparison or contrast. The following sentence is an example of a faulty comparison. While the Japanese purchased nearly 50 million smartphones, the Canadians have been addicted to the smartphone in recent decades. Although this sentence contains a transitional phrase, the criteria for contrasting is not the same. The criterion used for the Japanese is the number of smartphones purchased. A similar criterion should be used for the Canadians. Perhaps they bought 3 million. But instead, a different criterion is used that does not directly contrast with the first. This example highlights a common mistake made in comparisons and contrasts. Clear criteria are essential to make a comparison or a contrast.